It's been a long time coming. I'm totally kidding. I am totally kidding, sorry. I have just been in this Taylor Swift hole for a while. This isn't what the video is about, obviously. You've read the title. That's not what this video is about. I have had this idea in my notes since I read the book. So that will give you some indication of how long it has taken me to finally work up the courage to do this, I suppose. But I'm back. I'm going to do something that I actually think people will care about based on what I think people want to see on my channel, since it is called Grace Reads. And boy, have I read. The thing about going on holiday means I get back into books. Yeah, for some reason I can't read during like normal time, but you put me on holiday, stick me on a beach, put me next to a pool, and I will read. And what I read last summer is what we will be discussing. I have wanted to do this for a while, and now that the film has been announced, there's been trailers that have come out, and there was obviously the cast announcement first, and then there was the teaser trailer, and then there was the full trailer, and then a release date for November. If you've been on this channel long enough, you will know what I'm about to talk about and why this means so much to me. I am talking about the Hunger Games prequel book, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I will just tell you now, I read this book in about 2 days, I think, when I had it, because for some reason, when I pick up a book, I just turn into a machine that wants to read. I have this rule where if I am that invested in something and there is a book before a film, I want to read the book before I watch the film. That's how I treated the Hunger Games series, and that's how I'm treating Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I keep calling it a ballad, but it's the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Sorry, Suzanne, I really care about your work. So the first part of this review is going to be similar to my Cursed Child review, if anyone watched that. So yes. The main concept of the book, before people knew that it was coming out and things, was that it was a Hunger Games prequel. We were going to get a different Hunger Games from years before Katniss was even born, and we were going to learn about who Snow was before he was president, because obviously he wasn't President Snow from birth. That's not how presidentiality works, unless it's different in the Capitol, but we have proof that that's not how it works. So this is set in, they said it's a good 60 years before Katniss was born, at least from what you can tell from what year the Hunger Game, what version of the Hunger Games it is. It's the, but this is the 10th Hunger Games that is discussed in this book, and it is just night and day. So you follow Coriolanus Snow, that's his full freaking name, as he is in his final year of Capitol Academy. I don't remember if that was what it was exactly called, but it was the academy that he went to in the Capitol, where you learn how to be game makers, gamekeepers, and just deal with tributes and things. Whatever. The thing that Hamish did, that was what they trained to do. And this book talks about him being a coach, a mentor in the Hunger Games. Because originally, according to what we read in the book, they weren't just people who were victors who were selected as mentors. They were people taken from the capital and just kind of given a district to deal with. So it's all 12 districts. It's 10 years since the War of Panem, at least from what I can remember. So 10 years ago, everything went down and the capital was like, we need to teach them a lesson for doing all of this. And all of the classes that Snow, so he lives with his grandmother, his grandmom, as he calls her, because she's a proper lady and things, and his cousin, Tigress Snow. And if you read the books, you'd know why that's kind of significant. And if you watched the films, you'd also get why that's significant. But yeah, his cousin is Tigress. And she's not all tigery yet and things that happened later in life, because she's still like a child technically at this point. I think he's about 18, 19 at this point, because he's like in his last year of school. And he's very capital, but he doesn't live the capital life. So he goes to a school in the capital. He has to wear like certain things. He acts a certain way. He's very pro the establishment and things. But his main thing is he's not actually rich and things. And this isn't like a spoiler, because this happens like first thing in the book. His family were big. His family were big and important. And then after the war, he lost his parents, and now he's living with his grandmother. And he has to fake being rich and famous and important and special and popular, which is very on brand, I would say, for Suzanne to write about our lovely Snow. And they have this little thing that they say, Snow always lands on top. I loved that when I first read it. I was like, that's so cheesy, but it's so true, I suppose. So he goes to the school, and yeah, he gets told that he's going to be a mentor for the tribute, and the tributes are picked, and he is given the tribute from District 12. Yeah, District 12. No subtlety there whatsoever. And his tribute that he is looking after is a girl called Lucy Gray Baird. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced, but that's how it's spelled. So B-A-I-R-D, Baird. And she is bubbly, she is flamboyant, she wears bright colours on the day of the reaping and things. She freaking sings to everyone in front of the whole crowd. She's just so far removed from what people's image of District 12 is, even in like the past and things, because she's from something called the Covey, which is it's an area in District 12 that is inhabited by travellers, but it just means that she is a performer. She sings to crowds and things. She sings in like the Hob and things like that, if you remember that from the books or from the movies. And she's technically not a member of District 12, but because they stopped the travelling, they kind of got stuck there. So she's not. Yeah, it's complicated. She's a traveller, but she can't travel, if you catch my drift. And Snow is just kind of like, okay, I just need to make this girl look as good as possible for the games. And like, it is night and day, the difference between the 10th Hunger Games and the 75th Hunger Games? 74th? It's one of the 70s. I know it's somewhere in that territory. And like, they don't treat them the way that I know for a fact from reading this book that the pageantry stuff obviously came later, considering the fact that they keep tributes in cages in a zoo. So they don't even make it, the tributes are kept in cages in a zoo, and capital district, like capital members and things and people in that society can go and gawk at them. There's no subtlety whatsoever in this story. It's very clear what Suzanne Collins wants to say when she tells this story, and just the way that it seems so primitive. There's so many parts of it that are modern, but then the Hunger Games part is just so primitive. It's just an all-out stick kids in an arena and fight to the death, which is what the original Hunger Games was, of course, but it's just so, yeah, it feels so much worse reading it in that way than it did reading it in the books, which is in the original books, which is kind of insane, because even then it was disturbing, but this feels more disturbing, if you catch my drift. But yeah, it's very terrifying. And there is romance, in it, but that's not the most important part of the story. In the original Hunger Games, it was talking about how basically how the games looks from someone of the districts. This one talks about the games from the perspective of people in the capital, which is like I said, night and day, exactly. And the difference between how Snow sees it all and how it looks to Lucy Gray, in their own respective classes, districts and things. And I never thought that there could be a piece of literature to make me feel sorry for Snow, but Suzanne managed with this book. Like, I genuinely, like, at times I was rooting for Snow. I was mostly rooting for Lucy, because I was like, she's the good one, she's cool, she's nice, she's awesome, she's very flamboyant, she's this, she's that, she should win the Hunger Games, blah, 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 all of those things that you think when you root for someone. But because it's from Snow's perspective, you do find yourself a little bit rooting for him. If anyone walked out of the original Hunger Games and went, you know, maybe Snow was right, then you're on the wrong side of the fence, buddy. I should never drink cold tea. It was a very good book. I couldn't put it down, literally. Anytime I had to move on the beach or had to move back to the tent or something, or the weather changed and things, I did not want to put that book down. It is very hard to put down. It's a very good book. If you're a fan of the Hunger Games, if you weren't a fan of the Hunger Games, it is still a really good read. It's still really interesting. I would definitely recommend it if you read the Hunger Games originally, or if you enjoyed the films, because you should read the book first. You should always read the book first. I mean, I did, and I had a great time. So, and I definitely want to watch it in November, because the cast looks interesting. The cast looks very interesting. So now that I've finished with the section where I don't give any spoilers and things and just talk about the general plot, I can finally get into the nitty-gritty. If you have not read the book, then please do not keep watching this video if you want to read it, because I am about to go into major spoiler territory. Are you there? Are we good? Are we good? Okay? Everyone gone? Okay? Spoiler time. Why? Okay. I knew that he was a bad person, but I didn't realise he was a cheat. Okay? I didn't realise that he was going to, like, I get that he was in love with Lucy and he didn't want her to lose the Hunger Games, but why, in a system that he supported, would he cheat at the Hunger Games? Like, it's just... If you've read the book, you know that he basically, there's these snake things, these terrible modified snakes that Dr. Gall creates and things, and if they have your scent in their nose, they will not attack you. If they recognise your scent, they will not try and kill you. And one of them does try to kill one of his classmates, basically puts her in the hospital, and Dr. Gall doesn't care because she is a terrible person. Literally, she's going to be a very hard person to watch on the screen, I can feel, because just every decision that she made, Volumnia, I think that's her first name, Volumnia Gall, is absolute anarchy. She's just, she has no regard for human life whatsoever, and I think she truly believes that the people of the district are inhuman, because she doesn't treat them as humans. Absolutely not. But yes, he does cheat. He feeds her when she's not supposed to be fed anything extra. He sneaks food into her cage and things. And for the actual games, he puts something with her scent on it into the glass cage where the snakes are kept, because they keep all of the animals at the school for some really stupid reason, even though they are extremely dangerous, just to make sure that she has the advantage when the snakes get put into the arena. And she does win. And he does get caught for cheating. He does get caught and made to be a peacekeeper in, guess where? District 12! Yeah, they both get sent back to District 12. She goes back because she has to. And he goes there to become a peacekeeper with his best mate, Sejanus. I didn't mention Sejanus in the first part of this video because he's just so... I have feelings about Sedge. Like, he did not deserve what he got in that book. I know that it was a whole power struggle and things, but I just felt so bad for the dude. Like, he genuinely cared about his tributes. He genuinely cared about how they ended up in the games and things. he was so sweet. Like, I feel like I'm gonna cry over Sedginess in the films because he was just so sweet. I just really liked Sedge, okay? I'm just gonna leave it at that. So obviously, he goes back to District 12 and he learns about the way that things work in the Covey. He meets all of Lucy's sisters and things, learns about Billy Taupe and the songs. Oh my gosh. Like, I didn't realise how much this was going to change the way that you see the other Hunger Games books, but it changes it. And there's already, like, I don't know if they happened because of the books or because of the films coming out, but there are already so many theories about if Katniss is related to Lucy Gray because of the songs that she sings. I personally believe in the ones that say she's related to her sister instead, because it's implied at the end of the book that Lucy is dead. So yeah, at the end of the books, it is implied that Lucy dies. And I believe that because she wouldn't have survived on her own. At least I don't think so, anyway. And you do eventually just go, okay, yep, he's a terrible person because of the way that it ends and things. But you don't realise how sneaky and calculating he is because he's so charismatic with the way that this story is told about him. It just, like, you don't realise stuff's going on until you see it and things. So he always has a hate for Mockingjays, which makes the final book of the Hunger Games very, very telling. He's always been very obsessed with the smell of roses and things, which makes everything that happened in Catching Fire and Mockingjay even creepier. Of course, he poisons people with rat poison and things, which becomes his signature move by the Hunger Games books and things, because that's how he rises to power. We see our first... Honestly, I do believe that Snow is the reason that the Hunger Games became a pageant, because after his whole revelation, after he spends time in the Covey and with Lucy Gray Baird and everyone in District 12, and he does that heinous act of just letting Sedginess get killed and all of those things, he is the reason that it became a pageant, because he was proud of the games. He was proud of what they did. He was obviously favoured by Dr. Gall, which definitely happened because he went off to university thanks to her. And he just... You root for him and then you go right back to hating him by the final page. And honestly, that's a good feeling. It's a good feeling that you can go, okay, yeah, he still sucks. He still uber sucks for everything that he did. Because he does. He absolutely. If anyone is rooting for him by the end of this book, you have missed the entire point of the story. You've missed the whole point. He was only nice to Lucy because he loved her. If she had been any other kind of tribute and things, if she had been like a guy or someone who wasn't desirable in any way, shape or form, he would not have treated her the way that he treated her. But you can root for him for a little bit. For a little bit, you're allowed to root for him because you think he's going to turn over a new leaf. But then you realise, hang on a minute, I'm reading a book about President Snow. I shouldn't be rooting for this guy. He does terrible, terrible war crimes and horrible things to people and lets children unalive. It's just, there's a lot of feelings I have about this book, and I'm so glad I finally get to talk about it. I am very excited for the film. I know so many other people had different expectations about what it would be and who would be in it and things like that. I'm happy with the casting choices. I like it. I like who they've cast for Lucy Gray. I'm a little obsessed with the guy that they have cast as Snow. He's kind of pretty. Hunter Schafer is the perfect Tigress. She's so perfect for the young version of Tigress. She's perfect for Tigress Snow. And anyone who was like, oh, she doesn't look right for this thing. She's one of the most perfect people to cast as a capital citizen, period. Honestly. Because of just her look and the way that she just appears on camera and things. I'm honestly excited. I am very excited for the film. They've cast Dean Highbottom very well. Dr. Gall honestly scared me in the trailers, definitely. She's very scary. If you like the Hunger Games for reading about the games, you will like this, because there is game stuff that happens, but it doesn't go on for pages and pages and pages like in the original Hunger Games, but mostly because that's not the main focus of what the games are. It's just a case of, you see it from Snow's perspective, watching in the stands and things, so it's not the same as being in the field like it was with Katniss, which was quite interesting. I do think that was the biggest pull from the Hunger Games books and things, which is why people were so disappointed with Mockingjay. But I liked Mockingjay, okay? There was plenty of, like, blood sport and things, okay? It is kind of romantic. If you focus on just that element, it is sort of a love-hate, enemies to lovers, and then back to enemies again sort of story and things. But the songs were the most intriguing to me. I know I touched on this slightly, but the fact that all of those songs were from Lucy and her family and things just makes it feel so much better to me. Obviously, that does imply that her father is related to someone from the Covey. She's related to someone from the Covey. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. Because otherwise, where would she get those songs from? Because they were all kind of banned after a while, because they tamped down on that stuff in District 12, if you remember. Certain songs and things. I still can't believe, though, that The Hanging Tree was written for Snow. Like, when I discovered that, I was like, oh no, that's written about him. It's not okay. And in context, it does make sense, but it does make you hate it just a little bit when you hear Katniss singing it, and you're just like, oh, that's why he didn't like it, because he knows the song, he knows the things, he knows all about Mockingjays and all of that nonsense. He's just... It gives you more reasons to hate Snow, definitely, but the book does confuse you. It does confuse your mind in a way of, you root for him, you don't root for him, you think he's not that bad, you realise he's a terrible person, just it flip-flops back and forth for a little while. I still feel so bad for Sedge. I really liked him. I was hoping he was going to be like a resistance keeper or something, but no, he didn't. He didn't resist. He died. And it's sad, because he got ratted out, and it was just very terrible. Honestly, you do just read this book and you're like, yep, he's definitely a terrible person. Snow is definitely awful. Like, you didn't need confirmation that he was awful, but the book gives you confirmation that he's awful, so. But yes, that is my very unhinged review of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. If this encourages you to read the book, then I'm fine with that. If this discourages you from reading the book and you just want to watch the movie, hey, you live your life your way. Honestly, if you just want to watch the movie and fall in love with the way that Snow looks and things, go for it. I already know some really good cosplayers who've cosplayed him on TikTok, and I'm just kind of like, I can't fall in love with this guy because he's a terrible person, but I still like him, and it's very awkward. It's very awkward when you realise, oh, wait, of course he's pretty, he's young, and he's Snow. It gives you a whole dilemma. Like, I know there are people who are like, I want to root for the bad guy because he's hot and things, and I'm like, yeah, there's rooting for the bad guy. And then there's rooting for Snow. Yeah. It's you can still read it. You can go and see it at the cinemas. Honestly, I don't actually care if anyone cares about my opinions on these things. I just wanted to share mine with the world because I really liked the book. I still love The Hunger Games, and I was very excited when I was given the book for Christmas a few Christmases ago now. How many Christmases ago? I don't want to count. I'm really bad at counting. I don't want to count because it will just make me feel sad. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like if you want to see more book reviews, because I have read other books. One of them I might not make a review about because it's just... I mean, it's not a fictional book, but it was a book that I read and I did kind of melt into it. And then there's another book that I did read, and it was a fantasy, and it was one of those classic YA novels that I never said I would get into, and then I did get into it, and let's just say I committed a crime against reading fantasy novels, because I read like 4 books into the series. And I'm sorry, I was messaging my friend who's a huge fan of this series, and I said, hey, so you know how you really like this book series? Yeah, well, I read the 4th book and not the other books because I didn't realise that it was the 4th book in the series, and she lost it on me. She was like, how can you do that? You've just ruined it. And I'm like, I know, I'll read the other ones. So I will read the other ones, and I might do a series on it if I read them in enough time, because I have nothing but time on my hands at the minute. But I will probably have to make a video on it when I've read the other ones, because I just don't think that's fair. I think I need the full experience of that series to be able to appreciate it, and maybe some research on Greek mythology. Was that a hint? It might have been a hint. Anyway, I will see you all next time I am energized enough to make a video, and I will see you all later.